Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Event Show Live. Thank you for joining us. A big thanks to those that are tuning in again. We thank you for the support, and a big thanks to those that are joining us for the first time. It's really great to have you all here with us today. It's a big show today. The purpose of the show has been to hear from leaders in our industry and hear their voices and share their thoughts across our industry and bring us together as event people and share some of the challenges we've been going through. And today we will hear from some of those who have been giving a voice to our entire industry, representing us all. And we look forward to hearing what they have been doing and I guess how we can all support what they are doing. And just before that, for those of you who haven't joined before, my name is Andrew O'Loughlin. I've been working in events for many years, ran an event agency for 10 years and are now out helping event teams design or rebuild their events, taking a experience design approach to help map out event experiences and help you create that positive impact with your events, which we all know they can have. That's when we can have them. And so this show has come from the Event Show podcast that we were doing. And as the coronavirus hit, we thought a regular forum might be useful for us all. And we've continued to have a lot of great support for the show from you all tuning in and from many leaders who have been generously sharing their honest and open thoughts with us each week. So speaking of which, it's great to have another group of successful industry leaders on the show. And so it's a pleasure to introduce our panel today. First up, I would like to introduce Chris Heverin. Chris has joined us before on the show and has come back to update us on his work as chair of AMPSEA, the Australasian Mass Participation Sport Event Alliance. Is also managing director at Spartan Racing in his day job. So welcome back, Chris. Looking forward to hearing about the progress you've all made.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, great to be here, mate, and appreciate the opportunity again.
Great to have you on the show, Chris. We also have Bea Tomlin. Bea's representing the Save Victorian Events group, who have been leading the way and been a strong voice over recent weeks. Bea's also known for her work as director at Bespoke Safety. So welcome, Bea.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on the show, Bea. And also Marcus Pugh. Marcus is going to talk to us about the We Make Events Australia campaign, which he's representing when he's not helping us all out in his role at Harry the Hirer. So welcome, Marcus.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thanks for inviting us on the show.
Brilliant backdrop, Marcus. I think that's one of the best ones we've had. It's and fantastic to have you on the show. I will also say before we start, please do drop your thoughts into the chat box. It's really good to hear what you're all thinking. So please feel free to do that as we go. And also questions in the Q&A box. That's really important for us to, I guess, pick up on any questions you might have today. So please feel free to drop those in the Q&A box and we'll get to those as we go through the hour. So let's jump into it. So I might go to you first, Bea. Really keen to hear about the work that you've all been doing at Save Victorian Events and I guess what you're aiming to achieve and how things are progressing so far. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Well, basically, as we've all been sort of working out what we're going to do in our lives. So there was a few, I got an email through one of my clients about the Save Victorian Events. And basically it was about saying we need to stand up and say something about it. And I recognized one of the names from back in a long time ago, Carson White. And so I reached out to him and said, look, what can I do to help? What do we need? And from that, they had the male contingency. So we've now got some female contingencies in the group as well, so that we've got a bit of an even balance. But it was mainly because so many of my clients, everyone in the same boat, as it were, same storm, we're not doing anything and we're worrying if they were going to be there on the other side. So basically we've managed to get into the government roundtable discussions for events, which has been pretty frustrating, I have to say. There's just a lack of understanding of what events is, and we get lumped in tourism and major festivals and stadiums. And so we're really trying to fight the corner for business events and for events like what Harry the Hirer has been doing. And like, if we could all be right now doing this in a studio, we'd all be helping each other get through this. So that's what we're trying to lobby with government, that we need assistance with the industry in terms of financial support, but also recognising who we are, what we do, and that if we don't get any support and move forward into live broadcasts, which got taken away from us, we're not going to be there on the other side. We need baby steps to get us back moving again. So that's what we're trying to do with them. But it's slow and hard, to be honest.
Absolutely. Well, it's a great thing that you're all doing and representing us. And I know it's, as you say, small steps and it's hard work. What are some of those conversations like at the moment? If you can sort of take us into some of the conversations, who's involved in those roundtables?
The roundtables are actually with the Department of Jobs, Precincts and Regions. When we first went into the meetings, the facilitator that was running the meeting, and there was a lot of the big boys, as we say. We had Tennis Australia, Grand Prix, the sort of the usual suspects. So there was only a handful of us that are the small business owners, and that's what we're trying to fight and support for is the little boys, the little girls. So the first round table that I sat in, I was quite flabbergasted when they kept saying, just do it outside. And to the point, the facilitator actually said, well, look, there's loads of space around the MCG. Why don't you hold a conference outside the MCG and bring in portaloos? And we were like, no. And for me, the thought of using a portaloo in any normal time, not during a global pandemic, I'd much rather go to a venue that I know has got a process, a cleaning process and the like. So as I say, we're trying very hard to make them understand that we're not just all one big event industry. There's so many faculties of it, so that we can't just be lumped together, because that's what they'd said, that it was just one size fits all. And so that's what we're trying to get through, particularly with the live performances, the live broadcasting. That's really what we want to move to next, because that everyone got told to pivot. Everyone was like, well, we'll come up with a new thing. So everyone did. And it's amazing how many studios were created and the like. And so there was real chance and hope for us. But then obviously when they quickly changed the rules overnight, when I think it was going into stage 3, before stage 4 lockdown. So we just want to get that back up and running. So we're just trying to have those conversations. We're just trying to get in people's ears to say, look, this is what we need to do to help us. Yeah,
great. And so it seems like we're starting almost from an education process with the stakeholders, those people that we need to be speaking with. And how's that going in terms of, I guess, conveying what you're representing and what you're working for and who you're working with?
Yeah, so I say it's one of the things that we're looking at now is the fact that the gym industry has managed to have a roundtable discussion with Alan Chung, the Deputy Chief Health Officer. So we're sort of working away in the background to say, right, well, how did they get a Guernsey? So how do we do it? And because, excuse me, because what we've understood through the process is that we have to put our case to the Department of Jobs, Precincts and Regions through their roadmap. Interestingly, we are listed along with brothels and it's live male entertainment. So that was quite interesting that we were up there with them.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, we had to put a case to that department, and then that department goes and represents us to the Department of Health and Human Services and the Chief Health Officer's team. And the problem we've got is that the guys at the Department of Jobs, Precincts and Regions don't get it. So how are they going to actually communicate to the health team that we can do things? So just trying to educate them that for like a conference, we don't just get their name and phone number. We pretty much know their shoe size, because we're trying to gather all the information about our attendees. So that's a normal process for 99.9% of business events. We haven't just got the public, rolling through. So, and again, they didn't get that. So it's just keep plodding, trying to get people understanding what we do, and so just getting in people's ears. And so that's what we're busily trying to do behind the scenes, is navigate our way through bureaucracy, basically.
Yeah, and we all know that can be complex and difficult, but I guess at least you're being a voice, and you're having those conversations and working out who to have them with, which seems to be the starting point. And I'm sure you're shouting loudly in the best possible way. I'll come back to you, Bea, obviously, and get some more thoughts in terms of how we can keep progressing and what we can be doing to support what you're doing. Chris, I'd love to hear a bit about the work that you've been doing with AMPSEA and how you've found the process. And I guess for those that aren't familiar with AMPSEA, what you're looking to achieve. I know you've got some well-stated objectives, but how you're progressing with achieving those.
Yeah, sure, Andrew. Well, AMPSEA really started back in late March, early April, because the mass participation events were just not being represented anywhere. So in all of the discussion in the media with government and so forth, it was that they were talking either about professional sport, AFL, NRL, or they were talking about community sport, kids playing, soccer or whatever. And so there's absolutely no mention there. And I totally concur with what Bea said about, the business events, similar sort of feedback that, so a group of us got together and felt we need to do something about this. And as a result, we were able to get a little bit of guidance from what happened. The US had been doing something similar, so we took a little bit of a guidance from there. But what we realised is that we needed to be broader than just a group of event operators, complaining that we haven't got any money, and we needed to be much stronger than that. So what we did is we formed an executive, and on the back of that executive, we commissioned an MOU to form an alliance. So therefore, we had a legally binding position to be able to represent the industry or the people that sign up to join AMPSEA. And so that was a good start, because that gave us a bit of structure. What we also wanted to do was we made sure that on the executive we had really broad representation from the industry. So again, we've got, as well as event operators, we've got government, we've got insurance, we've got registration platforms, we've got risk and health and safety, we've got local government, we've got Nathan Rees, as a former Premier of New South Wales, is on the executive. We've got a number of people there that are able to give us really strong workforce. Shannon Gove from Rostify. So there's a really strong connection across the whole industry, which is really important. What we then did is we identified we needed to have some objectives. What were we all about? So first of all, government stimulus is still our primary objective. Our industry, like business events, was shut down on the 13th of March, and basically for many months, many of our industry providers are on 100% of down in revenue, between 90 and 100%. So that's the harsh reality of it. So we need to make sure we're really strongly represented with government. Secondly, we felt it's really important that as an industry body that we created a roadmap. And what we've done is we've got, as I said, a variety of people who've got great skill set. And I must say the collaboration we've had with AMPSEA has been unbelievable. It's been unprecedented. The sharing of documentation, the sharing of philosophies, thoughts. In the past, we've really operated as silos. We've been pretty fierce competitors. We're all running sort of big events and, got a lot of money at stake. But let me say, all of those barriers have been dropped. Everybody's helping each other, promoting each other's events, and getting back. So that roadmap has been really important, and we've through the AMPSEA website we've got basically links to every possible place around the country where you might stage an event, or the state government policies and the COVID plan templates and all that sort of thing. And we felt that was really, really important. One of the other things that I would add to that that we've been stressing to our members, and we're starting to ramp this up a little bit at the moment to reinforce what Bea said, is that we're encouraging our members to be on the front foot with government, particularly local government, with getting COVID plans done, get them written, get on the front foot. Don't wait to be told, because we feel very strongly that we are actually the experts in this. So we're the people that have had many years, big financial commitments. This is our livelihood. So if we don't take it seriously, how can somebody sitting in a government office who's never been to an event actually tell us what to do? So we've been really strong now in saying, hey, come on, guys, that get on the front foot and be proactive. And then the third part of what we're doing is making sure that our constituents and particularly with the media profile, and then leading into regional Australia, because many of our mass participation events are staged in regional communities. And, whilst we know about events like, the Melbourne Marathon or the City to Surf in Sydney or the Gold Coast Marathon, which are fabulous events and they're all part of AMPSEA, there's also, 70% or more of events are in regional areas. And so that multiplier effect in terms of we might put on $1 million event, well, that's a $3 or $4 million impact on that local community. And they're not getting that at the moment. And when you look at in our business, we had 11 events scheduled for this year. 8 of them have been cancelled or been rescheduled, I should say. Of those 8 events, they're all in bushfire affected areas. So there's been a double whammy where those areas have all been hit by the bushfires and now they're hit by COVID. And then events like ours don't come along. It's becoming a multiplier. So, so AMPSEA has, we're pretty pleased with where it's going. We've got 400 plus members now. That's individual businesses that are physically active, and we're trying to continue to build that. And from a government perspective, going back to the stimulus, we are been in with the Minister for Sport. We've been engaging with all of the ministers around the country, some better than others, and which is only to be expected. But in the Minister for Sport's office, they did request from us a formal submission, which we did do, and we put that up on, that's circulated to the members and on the AMPSEA website. But we went in very hard with a $220 million package. But bear in mind that $220 million might sound a lot, but of that, we did the numbers back on the industry data, and 170 million of that is already connected into JobKeeper. So we're asking for a stimulus package of 48 million, and we've been working closely with the minister's advisors. But are we going to get there? Reality is that it's I think we'd all be over the moon if there was an announcement in the budget, but we're probably not expecting anything right at the moment. So.
That was going to be my next question, Chris, was really your best guess on the timeline around the work that you're doing. And you've obviously been extremely proactive and have galvanised your part of the industry very quickly. What's your sort of best guess around having some outcomes from these discussions? And second part of the question is, if or when you're successful, how does the money get distributed? What's the rough process to that in terms of the question that's on one of our minds?
It's funny, Andrew. I've had that question asked me a number of times. Right?
Yes, yeah, it's funny that. Yeah.
Look, I think first and foremost, we have to be real. We're in a tough battle. So we're not. There's no handouts here. This is really tough. I mean, as Bea said, as an industry, we're all being bumped in together, and we're all being said, hey, these guys need to be able to survive. So, as I said before, look, it would be an amazing outcome if we got something in the budget in a couple of weeks. We're hopeful that potentially later in the year the government have told us that there are 3 touch points in terms of stimulus. The budget in October, another shorter economic boost in December, and then also March next year. If we're able to secure something in one of those periods, that would be an outstanding outcome. Mm-hmm. I think the message that we've been trying to get through to government and also influential people is that it's 13th of March, the whole industry across the country was shut down. We did quite a lot of research, and we just initiated a new survey this week just to make sure we've got up-to-date data. But, it's 21,000 events. It's 11,000 jobs that have been lost at the moment. It's $1.1 billion is the impact on mass participation. You're talking about 75 million to charities. So you're talking about a large number of. It's a reasonably big sector. Then you roll it on, as I said before. Think of all the jobs in the cafes and the accommodation places and all of the petrol stations and all the roll on around the country. It goes out like telephone numbers. So it's huge. So it's really important that we do get on the front foot and we keep pushing it out there. But what we've also decided with AMPSEA is that, one of our first charters was to be a peak body and to make sure that we had ongoing representation, that this wasn't just a COVID, strategy and then it all goes away. So we've been doing a lot of work. We've got a working group that's been putting together the structure going forward, and we're almost there to be able to announce that, and hopefully in the next few weeks. We have announced on a webinar, the last webinar, that what we're planning to do. But part of that is that we also want AMPSEA as an organisation to be self-funding, and to be able to drive real benefits into the community, continue the advocacy to government, provide best practice, and have an industry that's really collaborative and working together. And interestingly, that looking at the membership base of AMPSEA, we've got 51% of the members are event operators, 49% are suppliers or providers. So that's a really strong position in terms of what we're doing, because it means that we are representing the whole of the industry. And we're currently talking with a number of other smaller groups or groups around about how do we collaborate, how do we help each other, how do we work in alliance, so that we actually get this groundswell of bigger message out to government that you can't just sit back and wait. Again, I was telling this story the other day, but 13th of March, let's say 90% of revenue's gone, for 6 months now, for longer than 6 months. But there's an expectation from government and at all levels that, righto guys, we're ready to stage event again. So you sit there and say, whether it's a conference, whether it's a Spartan race, whether it's an Ironman triathlon, that means that we've now got to commit hundreds of thousands of dollars up front to run those events and where we've been sitting there for 6, 8, 9, 10 months with no revenue, no income at all as an industry. So you sit there and go, guys, hang on a minute. Everybody else is jumping up and down, but we're actually about active participation. We're about a lifestyle. We're about mental health. Our industry is about people getting off the couch and actually doing stuff. So so it's really, they're the messages that we're trying to get through to government. And we're urging everybody in the industry to, in all your discussions, make sure you're pushing that out there, because it's a little bit of water torture. The message hopefully will get through at some stage, but that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's great what you're doing, Chris. And as you call out, the scale of the impact and the knock-on effects, and also our ability to be up and running, it's critical that we get ourselves in a position to be able to do that, isn't it, as quickly as possible. So
I didn't answer your question, Andrew. So in terms of how is the money spent?
Yes, I thought you dodged that one.
As we've seen from other industries, what the government's done is they've run a program through the ATO, and if we were fortunate enough to be able to get that stimulus, and I say that as an if, then we are totally in the hands of the government, and we have had a lot of questions about that. Where will the money be distributed? We won't have a say in that. It's like JobKeeper. It's like some of the other grants in Victoria and so on. They tell you whether you're eligible or not eligible, and how you apply and where it fits, and even if it's interest-free loans, to begin with, at least give our industry a chance to get back on its feet. Just as I finish this section, just a couple of other interesting stats. In our first survey that we did back in April, May, we had between 45 and 50% of event operators said they will not come back in 2021 post-COVID. Globally, that figure is 67%. In the US, it's 87% for 2021. And we've just initiated another survey this week to find out. That was pre the Victorian second lockdown. So we're now trying to find out how that number's definitely creeped up in Australia. So you're talking about an industry that's being wiped out, and government are not understanding that. They're just bumping it all together and say, oh well, we'll worry about job seeker or this or that, but they've got to do something about this. It's got to change.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. And look, I'd love to come to Marcus, and we've already spoken a lot about, I guess, the need to have a voice and make some noise and have some awareness of what our industry does achieve and does offer to the community and the wider world. So, Marcus, you're involved in a couple of cool initiatives to help, I guess, build the profile of the industry and what we're all seeking. So love to hear a bit more about the We Make Events campaign and Light It Red. If you can take us through that, would be fantastic.
Well, the We Make Events campaign was was kind of given birth through the Professional Lighting and Sound Association in the UK, and it's grown from there. And basically, it's an initiative to try and help folks like myself and those people in the supply chain who've made a career out of being quiet and not being seen. And now we need to be out there and being seen and lobbying, you know, just like Chris and Bea, to try and get as much support as possible for our industry. It's there's no understating the fact that this has hit everybody hard, and it's hit the crew guys, the lighting, the sound, the vision, you know, the ushers, and all the way down the chain. You know, we're looking at, you know, 98%, you know, income drop across our sector, and there's a lot of sole traders and casuals and whatnot that haven't been able to get any support at all. And when the industry does come back, I'm really afraid that a lot of those people aren't going to be around anymore to put on events when we're ready to get up and get going again.
Absolutely. I think that the scale of our industry becomes quite apparent at times like this, doesn't it, in terms of the different parts of our sector, the different types of events, but the different layers and people and businesses that are involved. And it's, you know, it's really critical that we're getting a voice to the different sectors. And what's involved with We Make Events, and we've got a couple of sort of key milestones and events coming up in the coming weeks.
Yes, we do. The 30th of September, we are doing the Light It Red campaign. So we're trying to get everybody within the industry to light up buildings, monuments, anything we can. And get it out there on social media, on the internet, to draw attention to not just the We Make Events campaign, but, you know, everybody in the events and live music and live events sector, that we're here and we're struggling and we're needing support. When a lot of people are just creeping along on JobKeeper at the moment, and as that draws back, we're going to start to see some real casualties.
What's your observations, I guess, Marcus, or you know, the people you're speaking with? I know in your work at Harry's, you'd be speaking to a lot of people across our network. It seems a bit to me like we've all sort of accepted for a period of time that this was kind of the position we were in, but there's only a certain amount of time that we can sustain a lifestyle and sustain a business, and it's really got past the point of you know, well outside our comfort zones, I guess you might say. So what's your sort of observations in terms of how people are coping and feeling about it all at the moment?
Oh, well, I've spent a lot of the this lockdown period calling up other crew people and you know, speaking with folks in the industry with how they're doing, and a lot of people are struggling. You know, there's been a lot of tears on the phone, and I worry for the mental health of people, because we don't know what the industry is going to look like once we get back. And these are people that have committed their lives to it. So I've been seeing figures kind of thrown around that, you know, 40% of businesses, if this keeps stretching through till March next year, that they're going to need to shut up shop. And without some targeted support along the lines of grants, not loans, where those businesses just aren't going to be there anymore, and the knock-on effect to employees and the supply chain further down. It's it's very worrying, and I'd encourage everybody out there to, if you've got 5 minutes, pick up the phone, talk to that person you haven't seen, that person that you would have, you know, that you would have seen at a gig. Give them a call, see how, you know, check in and see how they're doing, and try and support each other. There's one thing to get financial support from the government, but then there's also that friendship and support that I think that everybody out there needs at the moment.
Yeah, great call, Marcus. I guess support comes in different ways, doesn't it? We need all these different things in place to help us out. But yeah, you're right. Things are really tough. Bea, I'd like to come back to you. I know you've got a perspective across a big part of the industry in your work, and with the Save Victorian Events group. what's some of the things that you've been hearing and seeing that I guess are concerning you, and you know, what things can we be doing to help each other sort of step through this phase?
Yeah, well, I suppose one of the main points that we've been talking to, and I must stress, we're talking to state government, to Victorian government, not federal. And so we're very much stressing the point that with the small events, with the live performances that we can record and be in studios, you know, we can start small and learn the lessons, because we need to go through a risk approach based in terms of how we actually come back into the industry. So we're not going straight into the big stadiums where we know that there's going to be issues and stuff. We can't control it as well. So that's why we really need to start small and build and almost prove to the government bodies that we can do this. And you know, Victoria is the event state. So we need to start rebuilding the state through doing our events. And it's part of our recovery for the whole state as a whole, really, is to get us moving and stuff. So, yeah, but in terms of, look, I've become known as the poo lady. Basically, that's one thing that is concerning me, is toilets. I do believe that the future through the building development and stuff like that, most toilets and taps will be contactless. I joke that my daughter, hopefully when she gets to buy a house, you know, in her 20s and 30s, that she'll go into an old fixer-upper and say, wow, look at these old taps that you have to turn on. So I do think there's going to be a lot of change in that. You know, everyone's learning to pivot and come up with new strategies. But yeah, contactless is going to be definitely a thing. And interestingly, I went up to regional Victoria at the weekend to do an assessment for some venues, and it was very confronting, actually, is probably the right word, because this particular town hasn't had any cases, so that it's like it's not really real for them. And I actually went in, and of course you've got to sign in when you go into the premises, but they handed me a pen, and I was just like, I'm not touching any pen. So again, there's that, they're less engaged with what we're having to go through here in Victoria, in Melbourne with the severe lockdown. They feel very sorry for us, but there's not really that knowledge of what it really means to be thinking about so many things. So one of the things as well was, I walked in obviously wearing my mask. If you're in regional Victoria, you can actually be in a restaurant, 10 people in a room. You don't have to wear a mask because you're eating and drinking. So that was terrifying for me after being in my home for 6 months. And it was interesting how many people would just take off their mask, put them on the table, put them on the back of their chairs, which would then fall on the floor. So I was having to educate them to basically look at your mask as your underwear. So you need to be looking after it. And if it gets moist, then it's time to change it. But again, it was interesting that people just weren't thinking of that. It was just because they were told they had to wear it, but they didn't really understand why. So that's another thing that I'm trying to get out there is, you know, get people to understand to put the toilet seat down before you flush the toilet. I taught that to you earlier this week, didn't I, Andrew?
I got the early question. Yes.
Yeah. So there's these little things that we can all do to play our part in just, you know, in our everyday lives, not just in the events industry as well. So I know that, you know, it's going to be a long time before we get back to mass gatherings, which is devastating. But I say we need to start small and educate people, our attendees, through to the government to show what we can do, because we're its leaders and we know how we can do it.
For those that don't know, Bea's area of expertise is in safety, health and safety, so she's well qualified to be talking about these things. And Bea, I'd also like to know a bit more. You're a business owner, and I guess how's it affected you, without, I guess, calling out the obvious, that things have been extremely quiet or non-existent in terms of, you know, event activity in Victoria. But you know, how's it affected you, and how are you feeling about the next steps in your role?
Yeah, well, obviously 13th of March. Straight after that, I pretty much sat rocking in a corner. My husband used to work in the events industry, so he couldn't quite understand why I was so upset that first week. I could see what was happening. I'm from the UK, so I could already see what was happening over there. And so, yeah, my husband actually said, you work in risk management, you work in emergency management, surely this is just a stepping stone. And I was just like, no, we've just imploded. 2 weeks later, when his world started imploding, he got on the bandwagon and was like, welcome to the party. Thank God JobKeeper came in. Obviously, that's saved us all. I took the view that I was like going to take some long service leave. So I just sort of went, okay, we'll just do homeschooling, which was a nightmare. As we started coming out of ISO 1, I was getting a lot more calls. You could see there was traction happening, that people wanted to start saying, what will a COVID safe plan look like? What can we be doing? And that sort of thing. And I even actually did have one event in between, ISO 1 and ISO 2, and did the risk management plan for that. And then obviously everyone ran back to their houses again and into lockdown. But I've got clients also piling on in WA. I've been working with people in New South Wales and Queensland. So it was interesting doing it's an activation. It's actually going on right now in shopping centres in Perth. So you can imagine me sitting here in my office, having to wear a mask to just walk outside. Yet this activation is happening in a shopping centre and they don't need to wear masks. It was a big deal to actually even get them to put decals on the floor, because it's just everyday normal life over there for them. So I am lucky that I have got other states with clients, but yeah, here in Victoria, it's pretty much crickets. But I say, everyone's asking the question about COVID safe plans and what does that look like? And I'm just doing lots and lots of research and studies from around the world of what's worked, what hasn't worked, which is hence why I know about Pugh and urinals as well and all this sort of stuff. So, yeah, I just hope that, yeah, more people in Victoria and Melbourne can get rolling, because it's crickets out there.
Yeah, and there's a couple of questions come through, I guess, relating to that, in that Jamie Lee's called out that mass gatherings can't happen if, if we don't have the right health and safety procedures in place, and we need to be training people, I guess our people to be able to do so. And there's a risk that this, the risk is if even one event doesn't comply and we have an issue, then that's going to set the whole industry back, I guess. Your thoughts on that, Bea? And also, Chris, I'd love your sort of thoughts on that. I know there's been a couple of mass participation events have occurred in the last couple of weeks, and as you talked about earlier as well, the sort of making sure that we have a plan. It's not just about getting money. It's having a plan to start producing and delivering events again. So Bea, maybe your thoughts first, just on that as the expert in the area, and Chris, your experiences around that as well.
Yeah, that's another thing that we raise with government, because obviously they're asking everyone to do a COVID safe plan. And so one of my questions was, well, who checks that off? In Queensland, you actually have to submit it to government, to state government, for approval to host your event. Government here just said, no, it's an honesty policy. So I totally understand what Jamie Lee is saying, is like, you're not sounding negative at all, Jamie. It is a concern because no one's going to check it. And one of the questions I then asked was, will it fall to local government? Will they check off COVID safety plans? And I've got friends and colleagues and clients in council, and they're very concerned about that, because they don't feel like they've got the skill set. And where does it fall? Does it fall to the events team in local council, or would it fall to the environmental health team? Again, there's no clarity on that. Who's going to sign it off, or almost, and where was the insurance part going to lie? This is my other big concern, is about what is insurance going to look like on the other side of this? But at the moment, the insurance companies are staying very quiet, because they're saying they don't have the information until we're given the direction from government. They're just sitting back and just taking our money.
Absolutely. Okay. That's good advice, Bea. Chris, your thoughts in terms of how we approach these first events, I guess, as we start to re-emerge as an industry?
Sure. As you mentioned, Andrew, we've had some events now, 3 or 4 events up in Queensland and on the Gold Coast and also Sunshine Coast. There's been quite a robust process that goes through up there, and I would really urge the rest of the country to watch what they're doing because it is working successfully. It's Queensland Health, and so it goes through the state office. For events that are under 500 people, it is a permit with the local government. Between 500 and 10,000, it is with Queensland Health, and it's with the local department. So there's departments all over the state, and then at over 10,000 people, it's actually got to be signed off by the chief health officer. We're going through it at the moment within my business, but the feedback we've had from the other events has been that it's actually a fantastic process. As I said earlier, we really are the experts in the industry in understanding how do we manage people, and it is a really strict process. I mean, we talk loosely in normal day-to-day life about social distancing and masks and things like that. Whereas when you've actually got to sit down and spend days and days and days and plan out how do you actually put your event together, how do you greet people when they arrive, where do they park their cars, how do they register, what do they get at registration, what do the staff wear, how are they sanitised, what do you do for hydration, what areas can they go to, how many people can you have on site at one time. So there's massive amounts of thought that has been going into it. So what we've found is that we're doing most of the heavy lifting in terms of the AMPSEA members. And the first event that went off really successfully was the Gold Coast Running Festival about 3 weeks ago. And the guys up there, the event crew with Brendan Downey, they did the heavy lifting, but they worked really closely with Queensland Health. And Queensland Health put their concerns in and their comments, and they wanted, particularly around communication. That was probably one of the biggest areas that they inputted in. And I'm finding the same with Spartan, that we've been working with them now for about 3 weeks. They've assigned an account person to work with us. I think we're up to version 7, which is great. And we're modifying that. We've also, because Spartan's a global entity, we're able to draw on the international protocols as well. And in terms of being able to put on a safe event, safe gatherings, we're going right down to the size of the waves, the space of our start shoots, how people can social distancing, what are we using to mark areas on the ground. So it's a very detailed process. But the thing is that we accept that, because we've, as a business and as an industry, we've got to get back. It's interesting. There is a bit of a dilemma at the moment in Queensland in a small way. I know for Ironman, for example, I've got the Cairns Ironman on this weekend, which is a big event, so that's going ahead. Will go ahead successfully. But they got knocked back for the Noosa Triathlon, which is not for another 5 or 6 weeks, because Noosa Council didn't want to have that many people in the community. So there's a groundswell then. Our understanding is that there's a groundswell now within the community. All of the business holders are actually up in arms because they're losing all of these people coming in for a week at a time when they need the money. And so it's a massive roller coaster. So I would urge, that anybody in the industry, get on the front foot, prepare your COVID safe plans. They don't have to be reinvented around the country. They're exactly the same. What's being prepared in the US and in Europe and in Asia, they're exactly the same issues. So, but be detailed, drill down to the micro, make sure you know every element of what you're doing. And I think you'll be fine that we can actually, as an industry, take the lead with this. And the guys in Queensland have told me that they're already applying for their second and third events. And the level of trust and support is changed. Local government, Queensland Health are going, okay, these guys know what they're doing. We're trusting them. So I'd urge that big time.
Yeah, that's great examples for us to take away and keep front of mind, Chris, as we plan and start delivering our events. I think they're really good points. And there was a question around, how do we educate government and what's our role in that? And I think, as you've said, it's being very much being proactive, isn't it? And we are the experts, and we need to provide the plans and demonstrate that we can do the job and create that trust with our stakeholders, don't we? That we know what we're doing, and this is a safe and necessary industry.
Yeah, well, mate, I would urge all event operators and suppliers, no shortcuts with this. Do it properly, do it well. Really embrace it, because it's going to be here with us for a long time. It's not something that it's a one-off. This is the normal that we're going into, and it might take us a couple of years before we can ease back. But we have to be really be proactive. Get on the front foot. I think it's super important. I'm aware of an event that occurred in South Australia where the organisers were slack and they didn't take the necessary precautions, and they've caused a lot of issues over there for everybody else that's doing the right thing. So we do know that in our industry there's all different layers. I just encourage everybody, do the hard work. We've been in lockdown. I'm in Melbourne, the same as other people. So, we've been in lockdown. Do the hard yards now, because it will benefit you going forward dramatically.
Yeah,
absolutely. Marcus, what's your thoughts on what Chris and Bea have talked about? And also love to hear your thoughts. There's a question here about, I suppose, that the positive opportunities that you're starting to see and hear of, and the people that you're working with. So, Marcus, what's your sort of take on our role as an industry, and also some of those opportunities which are coming back?
Well, we're event folk. We're adaptable. We're used to pivoting and changing and dealing with risk. But we need to have that mapped out for us as to how we can go forward with it. We've got plenty of things that we can do and ways of working. I've been lucky enough to be able to do some streaming work through a great initiative called Delivered Live, which we're very safe working environment, and a lot of the musicians and comedians that came into that show were a little taken back when they came in to see, okay, cool, here's all the crew in masks and shields and gloves, and everybody's having their temperature taken, and everybody's being tracked on their way in and their way out. And there's plenty of things that we can do. And just as Chris said, we've got get your plans together and get ready to push to get your events on. It's been there's plenty of innovations out there, and we've been here at Harry's. I've been working with the team on the smart badge, contact tracing, and area control software and hardware, which is a really positive way that I think that we can start to get events back on and happening again. But we just need to be allowed to. We need that plan, and how can we do it and stop getting lumped in with adult entertainment and the like. We're a large part of the economy, especially here in Victoria, and we all accept that we need to lock down to get the number, to make sure that things are safe. But when we come out of that, we need to know how we can put things back on again. Absolutely. That's right, Marcus. We're sort of coming towards the end of our hour, and we haven't covered some of the questions which have been raised. We might try and just tap into a few of those before we do finish. I think I'd love to hear from each of you, I guess, what your sort of call to action is, I guess, for each of us in terms of the work you're doing and how we can be supporting what you're doing and getting behind what you're doing. And also there's a few sort of specific questions that have been raised that can people come to each of you, I guess, to explore. There's so much to step through and map out, isn't there? But how can they get in touch with you and keep the conversation going?
So, Marcus, how do we get on board with We Make Events? You mentioned some of the initiatives before.
I'd definitely encourage people go to the We Make Events Australia website. It's very well set up, and we encourage people to contact their local members. There's form letters on that website ready to go, depending which whether you're a sole trader, a business, an employee, or just a concerned citizen that wants to help the events industry. There's letters there. You just have to fill out the details, look up who your local minister is, and send those off, and help get behind the cause of keeping the events industry alive, and so that we don't end up losing all these great people that we have.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I just, and for all of those tech and crew people out there on the 30th, get out, light up your buildings, get them out on social media, and push it out there, and make this as visible as possible. Not just for We Make Events, but also for Save Events Victoria and all those other organisations out there. I think that we can help to increase that visibility in a big, bold, red way.
That's awesome, Marcus. Yeah, we're event people. We're experts in creating great experiences, and I think these initiatives are fantastic. And I recall the Light It Red campaign in the UK, and that received global attention. So it's obviously effective, and if we can, use what platforms we have and the creativity we've got as an industry, I think that's what we should be, arming ourselves with to make sure we're heard. So great work, and really
go to the website. There's plenty of instructions there. And hey, if you've got my phone number, give me a call. I'm always here to talk and help with what you can do to help the wider industry and the community around events.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Marcus. Bea, your opportunities for us to contribute and get behind the work that you're all doing with the Save Victorian Events group?
So yeah, same like with Marcus. We're really asking people to call out, to shout out, write letters, email to your local MPs. We're actually running a campaign at the moment to actually put a face to us in the industry. So again, if you go to the website, which I know that you put up on your link, and there's just asking you to just film yourself or get someone to film you, and actually just say what is it that you need, what do we need the government to do. And I get it, like we're all in Melbourne here, so we are still in the eye of the storm, and this is the problem, is that at the moment the government they're only putting out their fire that's around them right now. They're not thinking long term, whereas the other states have come out, as it were, so they're already re-entering. So we need to be being very vocal to get government to understand that we need to be heard, and that we need to be understood of what we do, because we are the experts. And a bit like what Chris was saying about doing your COVID planning now, making it real. That's one of the things as well, is making sure that what you say you're going to do in your plan is actually what you can do and deliver. That's really imperative. But yeah, from Save Victorian Events, we're going to be painting our house red for you, Marcus, and the team. So it's just about us all coming together and collaboratively to work as one. We've always been very fractionated as an industry as a whole, which has been problems through the discussions with government, because they link us all together. And unfortunately, we've tried to have all these different associations, but everyone's always been fighting against each other for the money and stuff. So it's about us coming together to try and be united on this. We can all go back to our little corners on the other side back at 2030, but right now we need to come together. So please do a video. It only takes a minute. I did it. I felt like an idiot, but hey, just if we can get it out, then we want to be able to demonstrate to government all these different areas and these people that are actual real people, because they're not understanding that at the moment.
Brilliant. That's awesome. I'll do my video this afternoon, Bea, and yeah, I think it's a really easy way of us being vocal and being seen, isn't it? So that's really cool. Thank you, and thanks for all the work your team are doing. Chris, your I guess final thoughts and things that we can be doing to support what you're doing, and either with your organisation or other event-related organisations.
Sure, I think I think this whole collaboration is really good. So I'd certainly say that let's support each other. We are within the same sector, so I think from that point of view, Marcus, we're certainly through AMPSEA we're happy to promote the Light It Up or Light It Red promotion. So let us send us all the information, mate. We'll get that out through all of our channels and promote it for sure. I think it's fantastic. Yeah, look, it's about awareness. All of our people in our industry, whether you're an operator or a provider or a supplier, we've all got connections, we've all got contacts. I'd be reaching out. You might not be getting the answers that you want at the moment, but again, think around at the whole of Australia. As Bea touched on, it is opening up at different levels. WA is staging local events as normal, pretty much with hardly any COVID restrictions over there. So obviously their borders are shut. That's a different discussion. But so it is different all around the country. But certainly, we've also got to be careful as national businesses that we're not, too consumed by being here in Melbourne. It's different around the rest of the country, and our AMPSEA board members remind me of that regularly. But if you've got contacts in media locally, if you've got contacts with local politicians, state politicians, federal, I'd definitely be talking to them. The more people that they hear from, how important this is. And I think the other thing that I would sort of finish up on is that I touched on it before, but events are about people participating, whether it's going to a concert, whether it's going to a conference, whether it's going to a Spartan race, a fun run, whatever. And I think that's the big message here that's been lost, that, every week in Australia, there's 12.4 million people. Half of the population participates in an event of some sort, whether it's community events, going to food and wine, it's going to a music festival, every week, half the population. Now that's just been absolutely lost. And the fact that we're an outdoors, outgoing, active lifestyle, we've got to push that. And the mental health stories that are coming through, they are horrendous. It's terrible. And that's right across this whole sector as well as across this. So I just think we just got to be really positive, keep pushing hard, get out there, and it will turn for us. But be positive, but be get on the front foot. In terms of AMPSEA, everything's through the website. I'm very happy to connect with anybody. So if you go through the AMPSEA website, we've got a really dedicated group of people who, if it's not me, it'll be somebody else on the executive will be in touch with you and mentor and help you. And we're doing that with countless people within the industry. So by all means, reach out.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you, Chris, and thank you all. We're coming towards the end of our hour. I think it was some great messages there for us. I loved your point there, Chris. I think events are really such a big part of everyone's lives, and really our lives are a sum of events, and the experience economy we're living in. Events are such an important part of our economy, but most importantly, a big part of people's day-to-day lives. So the more we can see our industry back up and functioning, I think the better for everyone. So look, thanks to our panelists. Really appreciate each of you giving up your time to share your thoughts and share the great work that you're doing. And so thanks for leading the way for many of us. Thanks very much to everyone who's tuned in today. Really appreciate the support for the show. Really do hope you've got a few things you can take away and use in your work, and a few things that you can help support to help us all get back up and running in a safe and successful way. In terms of the show, we will keep these continuing these as long as they're proving valuable. With the next show will be in 3 weeks' time. We're lining up another great group of industry leaders, so please do join us. You can register for that now. If I can help in any way, please let me know. There's a lot of stuff on my website, the previous shows, if you'd like to watch the event show live, they're all there. Plus there's a podcast version of this as well, which we dive into more specific event related topics. So Please touch base if I can help at all. I'll post this later today if you'd like to share it with your networks. We'll post links to some of the things that we've talked about today so you can easily jump on those and support the great work that's being done. So thanks again to everyone for joining, and thank you very much, Chris, Bea and Marcus. Thanks very much.
Thank you for giving us a voice.
Pleasure. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Andrew. Great.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers, Andrew.